Do you know everything about fear and hunger? Well, prove it. I'm going to go over the last known secrets from the first Fear and Hunger game, and if there's any of these you don't know, you have to leave a comment to tell me which one. If you do know all of them, well, I'll have to do another video. So now, let's dig into what are actually, really, truly, the deepest secrets of fear and hunger. We ended last time with this mysterious locked door I couldn't work out how to open. Thankfully, I was able to figure out this strange mystery and access what was behind it. The Tomb of the Gods. This area has a unique mechanic in that you can travel between the past and the present. In the present, the tombs are in ruins, but in the past, hidden away on the side is a series of strange sliding statue puzzles. They appear similar to the Black Witches, and you're supposed to slide them onto a tile resembling a moon. Since the moon god Re hates humanity, it's interesting that Re is represented as hiding this here. A lunar eclipse reveals the path ahead, but to what? Solve the puzzle, open the door, and descend to find the corpse of a god. Olmir, the Ascended One, saviour of humanity, is dead. Sorry, I slipped into my serious lore voice there. This is a goofy video. To prove that, just use the spell Necromancy on his corpse to... Can I show that? I can't show that. If you come back here in the future, it's a little different. He's been skeletonized, so you can't give him a bone again. He's got enough. There's a key in the room nearby that we'll need for a secret later, so make sure to grab that. Back in the past, just above the now bursting with life corpse, you'll find a sealed off room full of a jellyfish enemy called Manebas, but deeper inside there's a ramp leading down to a glowing green pit. Loreheads will know the significance of the green hue, which is, in a nutshell, where the old gods dwell. Approach it and you'll face the Lady of the Moon. She isn't a hard fight at all, but you really don't want to fight her. You want to talk to her. She'll make you a deal. She'll fully heal your wounds in exchange for something small. The smallest member of your party. The girl. Her boss, the moon god, wants her. This is one of the very few ways you can restore your limbs in this game, so it's a compelling offer. Plus, it's exciting, right? Yeah. Out through the Tomb of the Gods and into the City of the Gods, Mahab. Overlooking the entrance is an intimidating statue of some kind of king with a snake staff. In the past, you can pray here. Each prayer statue has a specific god it's associated with, and if you pray to the wrong one, it doesn't count. This is the only statue you can pray to the god of the depths at, so it's a statue of that god, right? Wrong. It's a statue of Grogoroth. What? You say. It doesn't look like him at all. You're right, imaginary and astute audience member. Thankfully, we get a little background on this statue through party talks. If you have Enki and Das in your party when you're here, they'll clue you in. It's a statue of Grogoroth from a story in the New Testament of Olmir, from when he wore human skin. He liked doing that to interact with humanity and wore the skin so they weren't scared of him. There's no shortage of weird stories in the world of fear and hunger, but that one's definitely up there. Just next to the statue of Grogoroth is a statue of a pig, one that's been haunting the lore community for ages. And I haven't figured it out yet either. Do you know what it is? Remember that key we picked up in the Tomb of Olmir? Let's go use that. East of the entrance of the plaza in the future, you'll find a wall with a hole in it. Behind it is a locked door. Oh, and Jean. Hi, Jean. No, don't get up. Going through the door, you'll find the old passage. Again, astute viewers will recognize this area as the place you can visit in the past if you use the passages of Mahab. This area itself isn't the secret. I didn't want to include anything mandatory for S endings, and Kahara needs to come here to find some treasure. Fun fact though, the way to escape here is to find an alchemy lab and blow up a wall to find yourself back at the entrance, but I didn't trust it when I was doing my Kahara S ending. If you go right, you'll find the Old Guardian. He's one of the ancient statues who guard and work in the city. The Old Guardian's task is to protect the city for when the king would return, but it's been so long he's lost belief in himself. So he wants to challenge you to prove himself. It's a surprisingly tough fight even with a party, since he deals very high damage and can stun you. When I fought him as solo Kahara, I didn't last long, and since in S endings you can't save, I had to start from scratch. Hell's a boulder? Oh my god. What? You're actually kidding me. You're actually kidding me. I don't know what I expected. Oh, man. Anyway, beating the Old Guardian gives you his red scarf. If you go back to the past and show him, you get some unique dialogue. Human, I am what they call the Guardian. I was created to defend this city with my life. I am to look after this city until the king returns to this land. That scarf. I had a feeling something happened. I acknowledge your strength. Our duel must have been incredible. You deserve my admiration. Right next to the Old Guardian in the past, the, middle-aged Guardian, is the Temple of Enlightenment. You're probably already aware that if you enter here, you can speak to the new gods of ages past, and there's a good chance this is the first time the player is made aware that there were previous new gods. Sorry, this is technically spoilers. When you meet them, they let you ask 3 questions. You really can ask about almost anything in the game, and some things outside of it. The secret here is that there's a lot of funny or interesting topics you can ask about. You can even ask about Miro, the creator of the games. There are things and beings even we don't talk about. Beings that come from the unknown beyond the blue skies. You can ask about me. You can ask about yourself. What you are to become is up to you. And, interestingly, you can ask about the events from Termina, the second game. Not only the festival itself, which technically isn't exclusive to the second game, but also the Woodsman. This is particularly odd because Termina takes place hundreds of years later. Is it just a cheeky little joke reference, or is the whole of the New Gods able to see into the future? Outside of the temple in the present, there's another one of these fellas, the Lord of the Flies. People say they look like Gordon Ramsay, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't really see it. What do you guys think? Am I just face blind? Anyway, present Mahab is filled with these guys, but why are they here? Good question. Past Mahab has different entities roaming around. There's primarily 3 kinds: harvestmen, uteruses, uteri, and embryos. Why are these here? Another good question. Did you know that both these questions have the same answer? Once again, the whole of the New Gods gives us crucial evidence to understand what's happening. Who would have thought that a group who gives you straight answers on any question you ask would be really helpful? Valtiel, the new god of enlightenment, dedicated his time in Mahab to researching the creation of life. To facilitate this, he created the uteruses to give birth to new entities, and they, spent a lot of time in his bedchambers. The harvestmen aren't explicitly said to have been created by him, but they are creatures who like to please people, which fits with Valtiel's actions. The Lord of Flies were also created by him, but by accident. They seem to be kidnapping people in the city, likely to further fuel their master's experiments. Valtiel wasn't the only god of enlightenment who had laboratories around Mahab. Did you know that the previous god of enlightenment, our friend Nashra, still has a secret lab squirreled away underground? In the future, when the streets of the temple district have been ripped apart with deep chasms, there's a single one that's safe to drop down into. You'll find the laboratory of the decollated god here, and if he's in your party, he'll prompt you to use his equipment to make a clone of him. It doesn't quite work, but you can use the equipment to make your own husk. Why? Good question. Above you, in the Temple of Torment, is the lair of the similarly named God of Torment. Above you, in the Temple of Torment, that is the lair of the similarly named God of Torment, you need to sacrifice someone. Normally, you had to put a party member on there, but if you have one, your husk gets tortured for you instead. But there's something else down in the lab too. You may have noticed this altar with 4 arm slots. Yes, that's correct. It opens if you have 4 arms. They can be dismembered though. This is surprisingly hard in the first game. They're actually not that common, and you'll probably end up having to liberate an arm or 2 from your party. But don't take too many, or else you won't be able to use the reward, the Sergal Spear. It's a unique weapon that is very good, but being a spear requires 2 hands to use. Hope you didn't cut your own arm off for it. This is actually a reference to one of the first YouTubers to cover the game, called Neko the Sergal. But Sergals later became real canon thanks to Rancid and Termina. Just be careful if you visit Neko's channel because he plays a lot of a certain furry fetish game, but honestly there's probably a lot of crossover between furries and Fear and Hunger, so look, just go nuts. Did you know there's a dragon in the game? It's dead, unfortunately. In the present version of Mahab, on the way back to the central square from the temple district, you can find a slain dragon. It's not elaborated on at all, but with a little more clues from elsewhere, we can figure out what it is. Let's back up a bit. You do know there's lizard men in the game, right? There's a chance you'll see one in the blood gutter when you find Nash-Ra, and there's some guaranteed near Nostradamus' secret lab. Who are these guys? The lizard yellow mage marriage, don't worry, we'll get back to this guy, tells us that the lizard men ruled the world before humanity came along. There's giant statues of them in the prisons, proving they had at least a somewhat advanced civilization. But did you know they had their own versions of new gods? We find them in the Void, these entities called the Blights. Here they appear as dinosaurs and are still said to rival the powers of the current new gods. It's more explicitly confirmed in the second game, Termina, which shows the new god carved wall, but instead with lizard folk. The dragon in Mahab then is likely one of these lizard new gods who was still roaming around somehow. The really interesting thing is that we can find a baby blight here. New gods giving birth is a vital ingredient in making an ascended god like Olmir or the god of Fear and Hunger, so I wonder if the blights were trying to make their own. Despite the Void seeming so huge and mysterious, there's actually not a lot happening here. The only real other secret is, did you know you can become a huge loser? And I don't just mean in real life. Fear and Hunger has multiple endings. Ending D is where the player character becomes a new god themselves, and there's a couple of choices you can make. If you pick right, you can become a strong, fearsome god whose name resounds through the ages. But you can also become a huge loser who everyone forgets and you get kicked off the throne after a short time. If you pick the choice where you don't tell anyone what happened in the dungeon, and then you don't help humanity when they need you, then, well, everyone hates you. Basically, if you shut yourself inside and don't talk to anyone, you become a loser. It's a bit close to home. Also, this is a minor one, but the weird fleshy moulded enemies you can find in the Void are actually the creations of the new gods too. Similar to how Valtiel made his creatures, an unknown new god made these and sent them into the Void. This unknown new god made them to try and copy the power of the old gods and likely attempted to create life, but failed like Valtiel did. Anyway, the different ending D options seem similar to what we've seen in-game. The loser god entry seems awfully similar to what happened to our friend Nash-Ra. The Void is one endgame area, and the other, equally strange but 10 times as dangerous, is the Gauntlet. There's a lot of odd stuff down here, but did you know that the funniest is what happens when you bring Nash-Ra? For ages, the god has wanted to usurp the powers of Grogoroth. He thinks it'd be easy for some weird reason. Luckily for him, you get to test that theory. If you don't have the girl in your party when you reach the end of the Gauntlet, if you reach the end of the Gauntlet, then the grim god of destruction looms out of the darkness. Nash-Ra will challenge him for his place and promptly get owned. He doesn't even get to finish speaking and Grogoroth just flicks him away. It's not even Grogroth too, it's just his traces which are even weaker. This canonically happens too, since Nashra shows up all burnt in Termina. I wonder who took him to face the god of destruction. If you know me, then you probably know I'm a big fan of the Sulphur god. Lots of people think that sulphur was only invented for the second game, Termina, but did you know that there's multiple references to him in the first game? The first words you see when you enter the gauntlet are that it smells like sulphur. Yellow, of course, being the colour of mineral sulphur, and the yellow mages who share that colour only have one visible eye, exactly like our burned god. The lizard mage too is a big reference to sulphur. They share the single eye of their human cousins? In-laws? Sulphur himself is related to snakes, being called one, and is half of a pair with a perfect man god. Of course, I'm just pointing out the thematic similarities. I'm not saying that Allmere was a lizard man-human marriage. Unless... Look, I won't go into the lore implications since I already have 2 entire videos about it, but it's interesting to see that Miro was thinking about this god long before he was actually mentioned directly. The final secret of what might be the final Secrets of Fear and Hunger video. In the gauntlet, there's a section where there's giant rolling balls that instantly crush you. There's something hidden behind them, but it's extremely hard to... It's extremely... I just phase step. What? Look, guys, we're not getting behind these balls, I'm sorry. So, did you know those ones? Wait, really? I don't believe you. Well, look, if you did, then I don't know if I can make another Fear and Hunger 1 secrets video. I probably missed enough secrets from this game to make one. If there's any secrets you know that I didn't add to any of these videos, let me know down in the comments. If there's enough, then sure, I'll eat a humble pie and I'll make another video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, then the best way to support the channel is to become a patron. You get access to scripts, teasers, videos a week before the general public, and, of course, your name in the credits. Thank you very much to those who already support. Their names are on screen now. Thank you again for watching, and remember, you're never alone. You're never alone in the dark.